When I set out for the Northern Earth Mysteries group Moot at Barmoor in April 1980, I expected an enjoyable weekend, but could not be prepared for the profundity of the experiences which were to follow. Indeed, I didn't fully realise them until afterwards, looking back over the weekend as a whole. The house, originally a summer retreat for a Quaker family at the turn of the century, is pleasantly situated below a moorland hill, and the whole area had a distinctly welcoming atmosphere, no doubt enhanced by the beautiful weather which persisted all weekend. After arriving on Friday evening, it soon became clear that lay hunters of many different interests were present, and it was not long before lively discussions were taking place. After breakfast next day, I set out with Philip Heselton and Hilary Byers towards Cropton Forest, where we met another group from Barmoor looking for a standing stone marked on the map. It was surprisingly difficult to find, but well worth the effort. The stone was about 4 feet high, its wide faces pointing north-south, with vertical grooves on one side. Like many ancient stones, it was covered in lichen, though none could be seen on any of the stones seen in the soil. With the sunlight coming through the leaves, the scene was extremely beautiful, reminiscent of the 9 stones at Winterbourne Abbas in Dorset. The next site we visited had a more austere atmosphere, particularly as it was just beyond a sign telling all concerned to keep away because of acute fire risk. This was Morley Cross, a wayside cross about 7 feet high. While obviously of later date than the previous site, it was made of the same local sandstone, very beautiful when sunlight caught its abundance of quartz. After this, and an interesting discussion in a local pub, we set off towards Blakey Topping, which was to prove one of the most awe-inspiring sights I've ever visited. From a distance it looks like Silbury Hill, though much larger, and it protrudes from a flat plain in a similar manner to Glastonbury Tor. In fact, it's almost identical to the Tor in size, shape and feeling. The view from the top is similar too, though the surrounding hills are nearer. Before we reached the summit, however, we found an unusual arrangement of standing stones, which didn't appear to have ever been part of a circle. The only rather sinister part of the view from the hill was of the Fylingdales early warning station, which had 2 small dish aerials pointing directly at the hill. After the weekend was over, the possibility occurred to me that these could be monitoring emanations from it. It's rather a wild speculation, but the Dragon Project, investigating energies at ancient sites, has shown a connection between such sites and microwaves, and it might well be feared that the large detectors might mistake emanations from the hill for a nuclear attack. The last site we visited before returning to Barmoor was the church at Lastingham, now famous to lay hunters for its powerful crypt. Head-hum can be felt in the main body of the church, but in the crypt it increases dramatically. No doubt there were cycles of fluctuation. It seemed somewhat more powerful on this visit than on my last several years before, and I found myself panting a little. Comparisons with a Reich accumulator seem very real when one's in the crypt, and I couldn't stay long. Nevertheless, there is still one site I have visited that seems at least as powerful, the otherwise unimpressive little church of St. John's in the parish of Llanfair Talhyan in North Wales. After this we returned to Barmoor, and were soon discussing plans for the next day's activities. Guy Ragland Philips' suggestion of a dawn trip to the local City of Troy maze was agreed to by a section of those present, and it didn't seem long before I was woken by the huge dinner handbell at 5 the next morning. The sky was already lightening as our 3 cars set off, and I was afraid we might miss the dawn, as the site was 15 miles away. I needn't have worried, however. We arrived at the maze in plenty of time. Small and unobtrusive by the side of the road, we all wondered how it could have remained intact for so long. Its grassy curves were banked and obviously meant for running round at speed, which of course a number of us tried, including myself. It didn't seem a very powerful place at first, however, and I wondered about its choice for the dawn trip. Immediately the sun rose, however, this abruptly changed. The sensation hit us like a wave breaking over us, possibly enhanced by me, as Either by chance or by subconscious sighting, I was standing directly across the maze facing the sun. It was an experience I will not be quick to forget. Many years later I was to find that all lays, or at least all those I've tested, double in dowsable width at sunrise and sunset, when the sun's rays cross them at right angles. We were certainly ready for breakfast when we returned, and I thought we would probably spend the rest of our time in Barmoor in discussion. I still had one interesting experience to come, however. This was a trip to the top of the hill near the house, the Nab. Some who had been there on Saturday had reported it to be covered in long barrows. The pattern of mounds there was certainly unusual. All of them seemed to point either north-south or east-west, and there do seem to be alignments, some with barrow centres and some with ends. The alignments were checked visually. The mounds below the hill. This is a rough sketch of the mounds that I did at the time. When we returned for dinner, we found a number of mazes had mysteriously appeared in various places in sugar and salt. These were so well done that it was a pity to disturb them when the time came eventually to tidy the house before leaving. All in all, the Moot was an experience I will remember for a long time, and it was only after it was over that I slowly came to realise the totality of what I had gained from the weekend.